Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Ellen. So summer is in full swing in my yard, and these bright fuchsia roses, I thought what a perfect tutorial to do today on a bright summer day. I show you how to draw this, paint this. It's for any skill level, super easy. You break it all down. If you're a Patreon member, you get a photograph, but you don't really need it. You can see in this tutorial on how to paint this and draw this. So check it out. Have any questions? If you want to be a Patreon member, just click the link below and you'll learn all about it. And let's get started on this tutorial. So like I showed you in the video, there's these loose like summer roses that are all in my bush here, and you can see like this yellow stamen kind of little, you know, little spikes coming out of it in the center, and then they have the big bushy kind of petals around here. The stamen kind of center is similar to like a poppy, so if you've seen some of my videos, it's kind of poppy-ish. And then of course I have like a bright fuchsia type of roses. So this would lend itself to some really bright colors. If you want to play around with, I'm going to show you the Holbein Opera, which is a really intense kind of neonish pink. And then of course they have the bright rose itself, which is really great. So like I said, if you're a Patreon member, you get the photograph, but you don't really need a photograph. You know, I'm going to show you how to draw some of this. Basically, like I said, it's the stamen that makes, I'm going to show you that makes all the difference. It's just a circle here, and then we have those little spikes kind of peeking out here, see? Little spikes kind of coming around the circle. So at the end of them, they're like just almost like little dots. And then for the petals, you just kind of swoop out, wiggle, wiggle, swoop back, right? Leave some space in the other one, swoop out, wiggle, 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 swoop back. Kind of wiggle some of them like this. And then swoop down, wiggle, wiggle. And that's really kind of how you draw this simple summer rose. And you just kind of do a similar one here, maybe put some spikies over here. Maybe have like a petal that's kind of cutting it off so it's a little more natural. I mean, I have a couple that are facing on. And again, just wiggling these petals. And then for the leaves, don't really show you in this picture leaves, but basically they were just kind of coming down and they were going like this on the side. Wiggle and then pull back in. And you can kind of, and it can have some jagged edges on them. You can kind of make your own with jagged edges. You know, rose leaves always have those little jagged edges. And kind of play around just making some stems. See, just doing some stems. And then you have your basic summer roses. And then for like little buds, again, you would draw like a little, almost like an oval but pointy, and then just a couple little leaves off that, and you paint those in. And then we'll talk about painting this in, right? So I've already kind of drawn in my, I'm using, by the way, Arche. I can't find my big pad, so I'm just using the Arche. They call it a sketchbook, but you know, it's basically a paper that's just in a different size. This is the Arche's travel journal, 6x10, but it's just like regular Arche paper, but it's in a binding journal here, which is kind of nice if you like Arche paper. I'll be playing around with my Princeton 12 Neptune series. I've really gotten into this brush over the past summer, like especially at my watercolor retreats, because I love the point on it. It has that floppy, loose belly. It holds a lot of water and watercolor, so it's kind of fun to play with this brush. And some people get really intimidated, like, oh, it's a big brush, I can't do tiny little things. Yes, you can, because it gets, look at this point. I put some water on it. The point gets really pointy. You see that? So you can. So we're going to start off doing the center of the yellow stamens. I'm going to grab some cadmium yellow deep. You can play around with adding some burnt umber here, so it's a little less intense, see? It's a bright color too, but then it's little orangey tones to it. If you want to get technical, we're doing a loose color. I'll grab some cadmium red light, make a little orangey, play around with that. I always think it's best to do the center first and then play around with the outside. Because as you see in the photograph, especially if you're doing yellow colors, you want to do those kind of colors first, the lighter colors, and then go in and do the darks. So here I'm just taking this Princeton 12 Neptune series, just the point of it. Right, I'm going to go in, I'm going to fill in, zoom in for you. My center here real quick, see, it's just a circle, not intimidating. People say, oh, I can't do this. You can. Take the tip and just kind of swoop out those little lines. See? Go fast. See how I'm going fast? Swoop out little lines. Don't make them perfect, kind of bend them a little bit. Just swoop them out. See, I just have those little swooped out lines. And then at the end, get a little thicker paint if you want to. Mine's a little loose, wet, like tea. You do some little dots. You see the little dots? Tippy tapping. Tip, 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 toe to the tulips. And then you have that center. Same thing, I'll do one over here. Like I said, I made mine a little bit different. The one in the photograph doesn't really show it. So, you know, this is where you take your artistic liberty and you just kind of put them in. See those little spikes and little dots. Just like that. While it's still damp, if you want to grab a little bit of burnt umber, not super loose, a little thicker, maybe put it a little bit on this top side. You can see in the photograph if you have the photograph. If not, you just follow what I'm doing here. See, just a little on the top side. It will bleed a little bit. You can even grab some thick right out of the tube yellow paint. See, and then just do a little taps kind of in the background here too. And that just kind of makes it look more 3D. Just by grabbing that little brown. See, I'm going to grab it on this side. Just on the right side here. You can add a little of that too, kind of to the bottom, little tappies down here. Again, it'll get a little more 3D. That took 2 seconds. So I'm going to go back out a little bit and show you. See these colors I'm going to play around with. This is the opera. What? That is so intense. This, if you're a neon person, this is your color. If you're not a neon person, there's the bright rose, a little more muted, has a little more purple tones to it. See the difference? And you can even mute it even more by adding some cadmium red light and get a nice pretty rose color. And I love that opera color, so I'm going to mix all the colors with the opera color and see what happens. I'm going to loosen this opera up. I might add some cadmium red light. Woo! That's even more intense. Look at that bright rose. That kind of matches my flowers completely. So, getting this really loose, wet, like tea consistency. I always tap on the paper towel to get excess water. That's another thing people have difficulty with water. Now we're just going to do this movement where I'm taking my brush and holding it like this and going up and back and forth, kind of like this motion. So we're going to go up, wiggle, wiggle, tap it on the paper towel, and just kind of like, see, I get all the excess paint off. And then you can kind of just push that paint so it's not super loose downward towards the center. See that? Boom. You can play around with it at this point. Grab the thickness of the opera paint, kind of bleeding in some deeper color or brighter color on the top. But that's kind of the movement. Let's just wiggle back and forth. I'm going to get this a little bit looser. Tapping up some of the color. By the way, you see some veins. I see some veins in Miss Petals. A little trick for that is taking it in the back of your brush or a credit card and just kind of scrape going towards inward. And now you've created all those little veins. You see those veins in there? Just the edge of your brush. You go out, out, and in like that. Look at that. Perfection. I know I'm a little crazy. Punchy. It's Friday. So I'm just taking this pink color, really loose like tea. And look at that. You'll say, oh my God, this brush is too big. I can't do it. You can do it. Leave a little white if you want to. Get a little variety with your petals going in here. And this is just the first wash. I'm going to add another layer of color. This is taking me no time. 0. I'm loosening up the paint even more. See, it's very wet now. The petal is right here. That's why Arch paper is the best. It holds the most water. It's forgiving. You know, if you're super wet, it's going to buckle. But it's just like one little section here. It's not going to buckle at all, really. You see, I'm just wiggling the brush. Wiggle, 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 back and forth. Try not to hit too much of the yellow in the center. Leave a little bit. Going back closer in here. Do, 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 do. We have our first little wash. We have a little bud here. We just go like this. Whoop, whoop, swoop. And then like a little side rose here. No center. Just kind of wiggling some petals. Maybe grab some of that bright rose really intense. Look at that. Ooh! Beautiful! Get excited. I know it's Friday. And I'm just tapping in this bright color. Oh, I love it. See, this is still damp. I can go back in here and throw in some of that intensity. Now it shows shadows in the photograph. I'm not going to concern myself with making it so perfect. This is another thing. I want everyone to stop looking at photographs and painting them exactly like a photograph. If that's what you're going for, great. I mean, you'll sit there for hours trying to make sure it's perfect. And then you'll say, well, mine doesn't look great because it doesn't look like the photograph. Well, what's the point of the photograph then? Like, do you want a painting that's a photograph? Do you want to just have the photograph? I mean, I know there are people that paint like that, and that's fantastic and that's awesome. I love stylized paintings. I want to have I want my art to say something. If you want your art to say something, you want it to be known. Like that's, if you look at the painting, you don't know it's yours. If you're looking at a painting that looks just like the photograph, well, who would you know is yours, right? It's going to look like the photograph. So here I've just mashed and add some color here to the little bud. Getting in some bright opera again. Woohoo! So I want people, they get frustrated when they don't have a style because they're just copying photographs. Just look at photographs. You look at the photographs for your inspiration. That's what the photograph's for. If you want to have a style. Otherwise, you're just going to be a watercolorist that just paints realism, which is fine. Totally fine. I respect these people. I think it's amazing that some of the things they can paint, but it's not who I am and not what I'm about. And if you want to have a style, you really need to just kind of look at the photograph for inspiration and then start painting. So now we've got these bright colors going in here. And obviously now we need to make some greens. I might go back in and add some deeper tones too, but we got that looseness happening. I'm loving it. So we just have that yellow. We use that yellow again that we had here. I'll grab a little more yellow and I'll just grab some Prussian blue. And we got some medium type green, a little more yellow, bright, chartreusey kind of color, which I love because we have the opera, and it's just, if you want to, don't have a drabby color with this bright pink, have a bright green or a deep intense green. So it's intense like bluish green or a bright chartreusey green. We'll do both. So here's the chartreuse, and here we take the brush, hold it like this, just push down and lift back up. Boom. Was that really hard? No. And if you want the little jagged edges, just kind of wiggle it. Again, it's puddling. It's a lot of water, but I don't mind it. See, puddle. I push down, pull back up slightly, and go back and tap on the edge to get those little jagged edges. Woohoo! Now, if you don't want it super jaggedy, don't do that. And this may be a little too puddly, so I might lift up some paint. I could just make it really kind of like a flat leaf like this. So just push down and pull back. And we have just this gorgeous leaf. Do you see what I mean by the color? That if you're going for intense bright pink, do the same with the greens. It's all or nothing. I was taught in college that it's one or the other. Either you're going to be minimalist or you're going to go crazy and have all the patterns you need, because you can't just be haphazard. You can't be one or the other. You can't be like, that's why some people are like, what's something wrong with my picture? I don't know what it is. You either have to go for it or don't go for it. You see what I'm saying? So here we go, bright green, excuse me. So I really just have one green right now and one kind of pink. And that's how you build. Now I think I'll have to have something here. Maybe just a leaf or two. And that will be it. When to know to stop. Don't get too crazy. Don't have to fill the whole paper. So we have that bright green. We have that bright pink. I'm going to start to grab some brown, the burnt umber, mixed with some Payne's gray. Put a little stem happening in here, getting some darker tones. Just kind of, we're now going to go in and we're going to start to get the details in here. But that right there, that's it. Did this in like 5 minutes and it looks gorgeous, right? Now I'm going to take some more Prussian blue, a little bit of yellow. See, you got that bluish green. I always add burnt umber because I like to tone it down. I don't want it so bluish. I want a little more normal kind of green, like a forest green. Then you go in here with the dark tone. See, I'm just kind of tapping that color. You can put a couple of leaves kind of peeking through. See? Get that dark green intensity. But I love it just with the chartreuse too. And that just adds a little something. You don't have to go in and fill every single leaf with the vein and all that good stuff. No, simple. Simple is best. If you want that look. You can, when it's dry, maybe I take the combination of mixing the two bright and the dark green. Again, still just using this brush. When it's dry, you can go in and take the tip, right? And then kind of create some veins. So basically a line down the center and little veins off of that. But not necessary. And just filling in a little bit of the gaps. And a little stem kind of wiggling out here. Connecting this rose little bud rose, some stems. And maybe I'll just do like a one little loopy squiggly thing there. And if I'm doing a squiggly thing there, maybe I'll have to put one out here. Boom. And because I'm a person of 3, I'll throw one in over here. Done. So I think that looks gorgeous. You might say it's not done. I say it's pretty much done. What I would add, just to make it completely finished, I'm going to go back in with that bright rose, maybe some opera. Grab that cadmium red light. Look how intense this color is now. What? You can get a little more intense. See? Going in towards the center, maybe out here is like a little shadow. I'm watering it down now because it was a little too thick. And then putting some down here. Just touching it slightly. This is still very damp, so just kind of playing with that. And I didn't put the scrapes on this one, but I can put it on this one now. On some of these. They're still wet. Add a little more bright color on the bottom here of these buds. And in here. Intensity. This one, I would just kind of like take my brush, put some little veins kind of going that way. But really, I don't want to go too crazy. I want to keep it simple. Simple, easy, quick, little floral. This would be great for a card or, you know, whatever. You can do an invitation, summer garden party. And the only thing I would add, maybe if I was going back in, I would take like my yellow, mix some brown, maybe get a little more tense with the yellowish brown. Just go back in here on that side again. Just to give it that depth that it's looking for the center. And just go back and grab that yellow right out of the tube almost. And get really bright in there. Tippy taps. But that's about it. This is all she wrote, guys, for a beautiful, loose summer rose. I mean, you don't want to go too crazy. You don't want to work it too hard. I think when you overwork it, you don't need 20 brushes. Just go loose with one big brush. Take a little bit of this paint, like I said, and you want to go in here and make little veins. Not necessary. This one's still kind of wet. Play around with it when it's dry. But that is all you need to do for something super sweet. I showed you how to draw it. I showed you how to paint it. So now I want you to see your creations. You can tag me on Instagram, wherever, and you know, show everybody like where you got the idea from. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel. If you haven't hit the bell notification button, please do so you know my tutorial is up. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. I am trying to teach you simple methods to paint, watercolor, and you know, drawing some of these things that don't make you so stressed out and uncomplicated. Also, check out my Patreon. Like I said, I have ad-free videos, traceables, very exclusive tutorials that are longer, not on YouTube. My Facebook page with like weekly challenges, monthly challenges, and monthly giveaways. And if you're a Patreon member, you get first dibs on retreats and workshops. And I just launched one today, Portugal for 2024. So anyway, that's what Patreon's all about. So there's a link in the description box. Click on that, or you can go on my About page on my home page of YouTube. Thank you guys so much. Have a great day, and I'll speak to you soon.